Good morning. My name's Deborah Sheppard and my business is Mindful Butterfly. And I'm really pleased to be here this morning and that you're going to join me on this half-hour live with Business Women In. 2 months ago, I didn't have my own business, and it's really fabulous that the Business Women community, along with Michelle's help and support, have created a opportunity for me to actually share and do what I really love doing, which is mental health first aid training. I think it's really important for us all to have this skill. So if you can share this, that would be fabulous for as many people as possible to get this message. Share it to your pages and your Facebooks so we can get the word out. I'd like really at this point, before we start properly with the message, is just to say thanks to everyone who's helped me on this journey so far. In the Business Women In community, it started with Louise of Little Bird Creative, and she helped me do my logo, which I just love and I've had so much great feedback about. Look at the logo. You have to look twice to see what's behind it. And then Danielle from Black Nova Design, she was fab and has got the website hosting done. And then we went to Ruth Allen, who's actually put the mechanics behind it, and then Jo Starr, who's my wordsmith, my guru. So yeah, I just wanted to do a shout out to you guys because you have helped me tremendously to walk through my fears and know that it's okay to ask for help, because I never did that. Yeah, so that's a good thing. And then also the last one to Claire Doré, my business coach, who again has helped me to be the person I needed to be. And it's taken me a while to get there, but now I am a mental health first aid trainer. It kind of goes into my background of training and my background of telling stories, really. Life is a story, many different chapters. This one's going to be a good one. So welcome to all of you who are joining. And I'm not very good at technology. I'm much better on a farm with a load of sheep. However, we will enjoy this morning. It's what I do most mornings, actually. I sit and I train online in this weird lockdown situation, and I talk to people through a camera, and it's making a difference. Yeah, in the last 5 weeks, I've trained over 50 people in mental health first aid, and the feedback has been amazing. I asked them to keep in contact with me, and it is making a huge difference. I am based in Marlborough. You can find me on my website, mindfulbutterfly.co.uk, on my Facebook, and also obviously the business directory with Business Women In. We're just about to go back to face-to-face training, so that's interesting. Yeah, face-to-face will be interesting indeed. I have enjoyed doing the online, and I hope it keeps going, because it's actually made it very accessible for many people. So I'm not sure if we got everybody shared yet, so we'll just hang on a moment while we all join. Don't forget, please share it to your business pages and spread the word. Mental health first aid is really important. Yeah. So we're 5 minutes in, and I think we are probably nearly there. Let's have a look. Okay, a couple more people to come in, I think. Yes, fabulous. Right, let's go. Got these earplugs in just in case the background noise kicks off, because I've got a few birds in the garden out there. Yeah, my name's Deborah Sheppard. Mindful Butterfly is my business, and we keep first aid in mind. And just like physical first aid, mental health first aid saves lives on a daily basis. And my training provider, Mental Health First Aid England, their aim is to have 1 in 10 trained, boots on the floor, so that we can make sure people with mental ill health will be recognised, helped, and on the road to recovery. So in lockdown, how's lockdown affected us? Well, I said you needed a checkup from the neck up, and that's so true. Mental health is important to recognise that it changes. It's a movable feast. And just like physical health, I did a lot of decorating yesterday, and this morning I woke up and I was aching, and I thought, yeah, I really need a massage. Maybe go see Michelle for a deep tissue one. I'm not ill, I'm not physically ill, but I just was a bit achy. If I woke up every morning being achy and my knuckles started getting bigger, I think, oh, check up with the doctor, might have arthritis, might have something. Same with your mental health. You can wake up in the morning and think, yes, firing on all cylinders today, it's going to be a great day. No reason why I might be feeling like that. It's just my mental health is in a really good place. Might wake up the next day, no reason why. I think, fancy a duvet day today. Why? Don't know, just my mental health's taken a bit of a dip. Doesn't mean I'm mentally ill, it just means I need a bit of self-care that day. So we look at helpful and unhelpful coping strategies. We're going to have a little bit at your stress bucket while we go through today, signs and symptoms of anxiety and how you can help those around you. So I just wanted to put it in context that mental health is a movable feast. It's not always the same, and we're not always ill when we're not feeling 100%. It's just we have to look at self-care. Why do we look at mental health? Well, 1 in 4 of us will unfortunately experience mental ill health during our lifetime at a huge cost to society, cost to that person, lost opportunities, cost of resources. From personal experience, I know trips to the psychiatrist and medication and therapy, you're looking £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 a year. So there is a monetary cost with it as well. And there's a ripple effect. Living with someone with mental ill health can be hugely debilitating, hugely very much depressive. So you have to make sure your mental health is good to look after those around you. You cannot pour from an empty glass. What I'd like to look at is the stress container, which is a good concept which I learned about. Imagine we all have a stress container. A little bit of stress is good. A little bit of stress tips us into being the person who can do that extra bit of work, that extra bit of we can achieve. Too much stress is not good. Too much stress long term will cause anxiety. Too much anxiety can lead into depression. How big is our stress container? Depends on a lot of things. Depends on the protective factors, individual and societal, that you have had in your life, and also the risk factors, again, individual and societal. I'm very fortunate. My early years were very protective. I had fabulous family who taught me how to communicate properly, taught me how to engage in community, in the brownies and the guides, and doing sports things and going to church and having my spirituality. All those things were very protective for me. The risk factors, they for me occurred a little later in life. Risk factors for me individually, fixing myself with alcohol, fixing myself with being really busy, work, high achiever, loved life and was on it. But that has a risk to mental health as well. So when you're talking to someone about their stress and how they cope, just be mindful of their frame of reference, where they come from, what their background is, and how they might or might not be able to cope and why. Individually, a risk factor in lockdown has been isolation, and you can be very lonely in a house full of people. So loneliness isn't just to do with what's around you, it's how you're feeling in yourself. And also in lockdown, people that have been locked up, maybe they might have found difficulties with abuse, either physically, emotionally, financially, or trauma. So those are going to be adding to the stress bucket inside them. And also societal during lockdown. We've got COVID, because the financial implications of losing your job or being on furlough or being made redundant, and the debts that's coming up, and the loss of your clubs, your societies, your normal connectivity. So the stress that society is now experiencing is huge, Why am I saying this? Some stress is positive, too much is negative. So all of this stress each day is going into the bucket. Depends on the size of your bucket, how much stress you can take. I had a CEO on one of my courses. He said, yes, but Debs, I've got the stress container the size of a skip. Yeah, well done, mate. If you've got a dripping hose into that stress container every day, drip, 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 and you're not having a coping strategy to get rid of that, at some point, your skip will overflow at some point, the same as my smaller one will. When it overflows, what happens? You get emotional snapping. And I'm sure most of us have experienced that. maybe road rage, maybe at the supermarket when the person in front of you is taking so long to get their change out of their pocket and you really have to be home because you've got to do tea and this. It's like, ugh. It's the emotional snapping. Or the child says, Mum, can I just stay up a bit longer? No, you can't, get up to your room. It's a very difficult thing, actually, to understand that we have this emotional snapping. And if we do, it's very important we look at our stress container. And if it's getting filled up, what are we doing to empty it? Imagine there's this stress container with a tap at the bottom. That tap, you have to open it to let out the stress on a daily basis, and maybe during the day, even more frequently. I liken it to, we ask our minds to run marathons every day. If we asked our body to run a marathon, we would make sure we fed it well. We made sure we slept well, that we had a training program. When do we ever think of our minds? Each day we ask our minds to run marathons very often. So coping strategies, they're as helpful and they're as unhelpful. For adults, you might decide of an evening you're going to binge watch Netflix. Not too harmful. You might decide you're going to go into the chocky bars or the ice cream or the booze cupboard. So we all have our coping strategies. Those type of ones might not be that helpful because you might come out of lockdown, what do they say, a chunk or a drunk. Be nice to come out a hunk. So just be very mindful of how you are coping, what you are doing to cope with your stress levels. And also those around you, what are they doing? June 2020 Mind brought a report out last month that children going into lockdown, those children with an existing mental health illness, actually coped, 50% of them are now coping with self-harm. That's how they cope, which is quite shocking. And self-harm is something we cover on my course, but it's on a spectrum. And one might say the adult sitting there with a bottle of wine every night is also self-harming. Is that more acceptable than the child that self-harms using other methods? I don't know. I'm not making any judgment calls. But it's just good to know 10.8 million adults in England are drinking to excessive levels. So just write down how you are coping, what you are doing. Actually, as an exercise, it would be really good visually. I love visual things. Do a big triangle coming down to the bottom. Write down in it every single thing that is stressing you at the moment. I think you might be amazed how much is in there. And then, what are your helpful coping strategies? What are your unhelpful coping strategies? How much is too much? Okay, so a bottle of wine a night. Yeah, that's a little bit much. Anyone know government guidelines? 14 units a week. What is 14 units? That's for men and women, unless you're pregnant, when it's nothing. 10 units is a bottle of wine. And if you've got 14 units a week, then you know what your levels of recommended levels are. You can't save it all up till a Saturday. You can't save it all up to one day a month and have them all then. Little and often, yeah. So there's a 5 ways to well-being, which some of you might know. And actually in Business Women, there's lots of people that can help us make sure that we're de-stressing in many different ways. But the 5 ways to well-being recommend that you connect. Connecting is talking to people, it's going out into the community, it's helping, it's doing things which have a cornerstone to your life. They recommend you be active on a daily basis, doing something you really like. Could be walking, could be running, could be dancing. I love dancing, I hate running. Dancing's my thing. And online, there's so many things we can do nowadays and connect with. That's one big thing from lockdown, is you can do it all online. I do Pilates every morning with Helen Scott, a fabulous teacher. Also take notice. Take notice of what's around you. Be in the moment. So when you go for a walk, don't be rushing along thinking, oh, I've got to do this quickly. Look, see, notice the colours, smell the air, listen to the birds. So connect. Connecting is very important for our mental health. And also keep learning. Keep learning. And there's the thing in lockdown, many people have gone back to musical instruments that maybe they played when they were young and haven't picked up since. So yeah, definitely keep learning a language, a new skill, whatever. I learned how to do delivery online. But it's like, oh my God, I'm not a technical person, but it's worked. And also give, if you can volunteer. As soon as lockdown happened, I volunteered on a crisis text line, which was very enabling for me to keep me busy, learning new skills, learning such stuff. And I think if you can build those 5 ways to well-being into your everyday life and into your family's life, then you will find your stress container is normally naturally emptied on a regular basis. The cost of not doing it is mental ill health. The cost of not doing it to CEOs with a huge skip-size container is enormous in monetary terms, but also in personal terms. So yeah, write down what's in your stress container and list your helpful and unhelpful coping strategies for you and your family. So we're about halfway through, and I just wanted to touch base and say, I hope that's been a tool that you might be able to use in your everyday life. The other thing I wanted to touch on because of lockdown is anxiety. It's something we do a deep dive to in the course that I do on the 2-day. Anxiety is something we all have. It goes back to the crocodile brain. That hypothalamus says fight, flight, freeze, or flop. And I didn't know about the flop one until recently. Flop is when you play dead, because that's the only thing you can do. So a bit of anxiety is helpful. It stops us from walking out in front of a truck or a bus. It helps us to function in today's environment. However, in lockdown, there has been, unfortunately, hugely increased levels of anxiety. Anxiety.co.uk has had rocketing levels of access to their helpline. And I think a lot of it is because we have been locked up. We're outside our normal comfort zone. We cannot control the environment around us. And it is fearful. And for those of us with children, it's even more difficult, I think, to see them, to understand where they are. How do we understand where they are? Because they don't often talk. Teenagers don't anyway. So anxiety. How do you know if someone is experiencing anxiety around you? Be on the lookout for physical signs, behavioural signs, and psychological signs. So what are we talking about? The behavioural. So if you notice someone who is avoiding situations, or maybe seems distressed in a social situation, or is doing repetitive behaviours, have a look and see what's driving that. The physical things, that's much more obvious. Someone will be sweating, maybe shaking, maybe freezing, maybe looking a bit like the rabbit in the headlights. You might see that they have palpitations. You might see, oh, are they having a heart attack even? Anxiety is a very real physical response. Why? Because the adrenaline is rushing. And as I was thinking the other day, for the kids who we've now said, go outside, go play with your mates, just put a mask on. Whoa, mum, dad, the saber-toothed tiger has been outside our back door for months, and we've all been hiding in our caves, really scared because people are dying all around the world. And you're telling me to go outside now? How's that okay? I haven't been able to connect with my friends. I haven't been able to see people, my coping strategies, going on my bike, going on my roller skates, whatever. And suddenly we say, go outside, it's all fine now. Very difficult, very difficult. So how do we help them at the moment? How do we know how they are coping? Well, it's the conversations, isn't it? And I don't think we always ask when we need to ask. We don't always listen how we need to listen, or respond how we need to respond. We do the best we can with the tools in the box. And for me, I know 5-6 years ago when my daughter was very ill, I didn't actually understand she was very ill. And I didn't ask the right questions, and I didn't seek the right help. So asking is important. How are you feeling now, sweetie? How are you feeling about going out tomorrow? Have the conversation with them and listen. And don't listen as if you've got to reply and make it all better. Don't listen as if you've got to fix it. That's not what they need. That's not what they want, not what anyone wants. Brené Brown, her video on empathy versus sympathy. Please watch that if you do nothing else today. Yeah, do your stress container, but watch Brené Brown on empathy. Fabulous. She's an American lady and she nails it. The sympathy brigade is like, they're there. We call it the broken neck brigade. They're there. It will all be better. At least you're in a nice warm home. At least you have a mum and dad. At least we try and silver line things to make it better. And actually, we don't need to. All we need to do is listen. And on the course, we look at active, non-judgmental listening skills. And I had to learn that because I was a fixer. I was the one. And even recently, my daughter phoned me up and she said, oh, this, that, and the other. I said, yes, but tomorrow it'll be. She said, no, Mum, just listen, please. I just need to be listened to. And that's me. And I have done mental health first aid training for a while now. We just need to know. We don't have to fix. They just need to be listened to and then respond. Perfectly normal to feel how you're feeling at the minute. I totally get it. Everyone's feeling that way. What can we do about that? Well, maybe we can put some coping mechanisms in place. Actually, sweetie, how are you coping? And a silence. Silences are difficult. We need silences. We need silences to let the people explore how they're feeling. If they've never been asked before, how are they going to tell you? It's a bit like a rusty wheel that's got to start rolling. Ask them once, they might not answer. Ask them twice, they might think about it. Ask them the third time, and then they might open up. Actually, I'm not feeling very well. Well, that's right, we'll take down the doctor. No, actually, I'm not feeling very well. Well, that sounds really difficult. Thank you for sharing that with me. I can't imagine how you're feeling at the minute, but let's see. Have you done something before to help you when you felt like this? Well, yeah, actually, I went outside for a walk. Okay, how about we go out for a walk now? Try to put it back on the person who is experiencing the anxiety of what has helped them before. Obviously, if it's a crisis situation, if it is a panic attack, that's a very different thing. And we teach crisis mental health first aid, just like Louise Worsley on her fabulous physical first aid does. It's very similar. You might come across a road traffic accident and there might be the person sat there who has actually called the police, is not physically injured, has witnessed everything, and then just goes home to partner, doesn't say anything. And after a week, they still can't sleep. They still have the replay in their mind. After 2 weeks, they haven't told anyone. They're not eating properly. They're not sleeping properly. They're becoming agitated, irritable, discontent, not easy to live with. The wife thinks he's having an affair with someone else. She didn't ask what happened that day. And he doesn't talk because he's a bloke, and blokes don't talk about this stuff. So what does he do? Well, I'm going to fix myself. I might have a drink tonight. I might have a drink tomorrow night. And within a very short space of time, if 2 weeks have passed and those symptoms of anxiety from that witnessing something traumatic hasn't gone, he will need help, but he might not ask for help. And if his wife had these tools in her box to recognize those signs and symptoms, she might have been able to say, hey, sweetie, what's really going on? And she might be able to say, let's get some help. Let's just talk about this. So instead of self-medicating with booze and then relying on that, he might have been able to go and help and get help for his PTSD. So anxiety is difficult. Panic attacks are even worse. They're very scary. And as Louise knows, it could be like a heart attack. If in doubt, call the paramedics. If you know it's a panic attack, if it's the first one they're having, they might not even know what it is. Very scary place. Rabbit in the headlights. Palpitations, breathing, high rate of anxiety, can't speak. And I know someone who has panic attacks, and I know she doesn't like being touched. My response as a mum, give them a hug, but be very aware the cultural response might not be appropriate, or the person themselves might not want to be touched. What I do is the rule of 5. We do 5 deep breaths together. 5 deep breaths together, just to get her back into a breathing pattern, because that's gone out the window. I then suggest that she looks at 4 things. So her eyes start to move. Look at 4 things, sweetie. So she'll look at the wall, she'll look at the window, she'll look at the floor. And then I come into, how about you touching 3 things? Touch your nose, and it's a physical motor response. So she'll touch her nose, her shoulder. And after 3 things, I'll say, can you say 2 things? Because to speak is the hardest thing. She'll say dog or whatever. And then the last thing, I'll say, how are you feeling, sweetie? How are you feeling now? How are you really feeling? Should we sit down? And it's just a process. And to deal with someone with a panic attack is very helpful to them, to have someone there who understands. It will pass. We will get through this. You will be all right afterwards. And one panic attack doesn't make a panic disorder. Anxiety has many different faces. Panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, phobic disorders. Yeah, I know that one. Cattle. Woohoo, couldn't go in a cattle shed. And living on a farm, that was not funny. Post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress disorder, and OCD. OCD, that's an interesting one. We haven't got time today to look at OCD, unfortunately, but just because you line your pencils up all in a colour order doesn't mean you're OCD. OCD is crippling repetitive thoughts that if I don't do this, everyone will die. If I don't do this, bad things will happen. I have to turn the lights off 5 times before I go to bed. I have to have the switches in the whole house on the same setting. So exhausting. And I'd like to end with that. Mental ill health is exhausting for the person who is experiencing it and for the people around them. And it is very difficult to comprehend how we ever got to this place. Mental ill health will not let you know that you have it. And that is a difficult thing as well. My journey has been through addiction, and 3 years ago I came into recovery. And I'm very glad I've had my journey because I can have some understanding of what it's like to not know you're ill, to not know the impact you're having on the people around you, because I'm a very high functioning person and it was not really recognised. So thank goodness a friend of mine helped, Esther, love her to bits, and I've had a very good 3 years. And I've also been able to help my family, and now I want to help other people to understand mental ill health, to have the tools in your box to cope when things are bad, to recognise the signs and symptoms of when people need help, and to open that conversation. Conversations that you might be worried about having, and to bust the myths open, even on suicide. Oh, don't talk about that. Absolutely, we talk about that. We lose far too many people to suicide. Why? We're very British. We don't want to ask. If we ask them, are you thinking about taking your life? It'll make them do it. No, rubbish. It will not. So come on the course, ladies. Please learn. I'm doing a special for business women in. The course, the 2-day course is valued at £300, but I'm going to do it for £200 for the month of August if you book up. I do think my business model, I like it. Every 10 people that pay, I will give 1 space to someone who is unable to pay, who is in the voluntary sector or who needs it. And last week I had Harry from McDonald's, bless him. He'd been asking his company since November for this course and they wouldn't give it to him. Works in Liverpool. He came on it and he worked 11-hour shifts around doing the course all this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and with the background of learning he had to do as well. And when he finished yesterday, I was so proud of him. And I said, and you let me know if there's anything I can help you with, because I'm always here. Within 2 hours, he texted me, said, Debs, I don't know what to do. This person really doesn't want to talk, but I'm not happy about them. I said, what is your gut telling you, Harry? Go with your gut. He said, thanks. And he texted me back last night. He said, it's all okay now. Yeah, this is good stuff, guys. Love you to bits. Thank you for listening. Please share this onto your Facebooks, onto your streams. Pass the word. Mental ill health is here to stay, unfortunately, but we can come out of the dark ages. We no longer need to saw the leg off to stop gangrene. We no longer need to saw our heads off and put us in the asylums. Recovery is possible and probable. There is always hope. Hope is the one greatest tool in your box that you can give anyone. So thank you for listening. Love Business Women In. Thank you, Michelle. If you want to know more, look at my new website, Mindful Butterfly. I'm very excited about it. And I think that takes me to 30 minutes on the dot. Thank you very much. Comments I will come back to and I will answer anything. And please contact me direct if this has resonated with you or you need to know more.